We're now officially in December, the last month of the year, and this means that for a lot of people, especially if you are unemployed, you're going to be getting a lot of questions from a lot of people that know nothing about your life, about why exactly you are unemployed. People who have never really cared about your life, suddenly they care that you don't have a job. But it's funny, they're not helping you to actually find a job. Because for me, the holidays means that a lot more people are going to be around. It means that my normal format that I really love, the vlog style, is really not going to be feasible. So instead of just being like, oh, I'm not gonna upload anything on YouTube, well, I've decided that I am going to be creating videos in this style, talking to you. Let's call it December sit-downs. And of course, I'm going to be covering the topics as I always do in my vlog style format. And so today I really want to talk about something that I've really been thinking about, mostly from a lot of the questions that I get about why you're not getting a job, you have a master's degree. The simple answer to this is I just don't want to get a job. I don't want to work anymore. It's true that I have a master's degree and I actually went abroad to get my master's degree. My first degree, I got on honors. I graduated with honors. I have worked in corporate Kenya, I have worked in corporate France, and some people are looking at all those achievements and they're like, why don't you have a job? As if it's some sort of disability. What I've really come to realize is that a lot of people still don't recognize that there are some people who are unemployed by choice. But I also do understand that the current economic climate is not very good, and that means that unemployment rates are just going to go up. This means that a lot of companies are just going to have to lay people off and put a hold on employment so that they can actually make a profit. The governmental policies are not helping the companies, and that just means that everyone is losing. That happens when you have leaders who don't use their brains. That also happens because you are putting in leaders into government who have no education, who don't care about people, who are not thinking strategically, not thinking about the long term. And I would actually say that's one of the reasons why I don't want to work anymore, especially in these corporate environments. Remember, I have worked in these corporate environments in Kenya and France, so I know exactly what I'm talking about. This mediocrity that we are constantly seeing in political leadership is one of the things that you will constantly see in corporate leadership. And honestly, this is something I had a really hard time with, because it's really not about the work that you're doing. Unfortunately, that's the reality when it comes to work. It's not about how hardworking you are. It's about playing politics. It's about massaging egos. It's about making people who are mediocre feel like they're doing something great. Most of these people are in leadership positions, and I was just like, I cannot deal with this. I have been brought up in an African household. I'm a firstborn daughter and the only girl. I was always pushed to be the best in everything, an overachiever. And then suddenly I'm finding myself in a work environment where I have to dumb myself down because my excellence makes other people insecure. That is none of my business. But you know what? When it comes to the work environment, it is going to be your fault. If you're too good at something, if you're confident, if you're always excellent and other people are feeling like they're less than, you're going to be the problem. They're not going to look at themselves and say, oh, maybe we should step up. No, they look at you and be like, you think you're better than us, you have an attitude, you're too arrogant, you are too much. I just really had a hard time with that. I'm not going to reduce my standards just so that you can feel comfortable in your mediocrity. I really do not understand that. That's why I decided, instead of trying to force myself in an environment that is going to make me feel like I have a problem when I'm not the one that has a problem. It's them. These systems have been created to always punish people who are excellent, who are good, and even worse, if you're a woman and you're young and you're ambitious, oh my god, they will do everything to make you feel like you have a problem because they feel threatened by you. And this is coming from both the men and the women. And oh my god, it's even worse from the women. Of course, if you come from a patriarchal society, there's always been this narrative. When it comes to these jobs, there's only few spaces for women. So even the women who are in these workspaces, they see you as competition, and they're going to do everything in their power to trample on you, to make you feel small, to make you feel like there's a problem with you. And that toxicity is something that I just didn't want in my life. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. I have come to the company to work. I am doing my work incredibly well, but people have a problem that you're doing your work very well because it puts a spotlight on how they're actually not doing their work well. The second thing that really made me not want to work in corporate anymore is the fact that the reality of the matter is that a lot of those jobs are not important jobs or they're not useful jobs have been characterized as bullshit jobs. I do not want to say the bad word here. But honestly, I found this to be very true. I work in marketing. I realized very quickly a lot of these companies do not care for consumers, their customers. They only care about making money. In fact, one of the things that I found to be very interesting in my master's degree was in the corporate social responsibility course that we did, and they were talking about the triple bottom line, which is people, planet, and profits. But that doesn't really make sense. You cannot talk about people, planet, and then put profits there, because profits will always take precedence, and that is what is always happening in these companies. I really didn't like how I was often being forced to use my skill set and my competencies to lie to customers or to manipulate people. It's really not a good feeling. I mean, there's a really thin line between persuading people and manipulating people. This is one of the reasons why I decided to start my marketing podcast, Monetized Attention, because I deeply do like marketing and all the things that come with it, whether it's psychology, with its communication. So I decided to use my own skills to create something that could potentially help people, especially people who want to start their businesses or people who want to understand the world more. In some of the videos that I've posted on the podcast, I've spoken about how you're getting manipulated, why you could get fired, and all these things that really help you to understand more about the world that we live in. I think that that is a more productive way of using my degree and my knowledge. At the end of the day, when I really look at this job, is it really an important job? I really don't think it is. In the context of the capitalistic society that we live in, it is an important job, but in the context of life, it is not. It is not something that is essential. I find that the reason why a lot of us are consistently feeling like we're not enough is because the societies we are living in, the systems that we're living under, prioritize the non-essential things, glorify the non-essential things in life. And then when it comes to things that really make life meaningful, we don't even have time for that. It's not even given a lot of weight, and that's why a lot of us are finding ourselves like living out of balance. And this idea of having a lot of useless jobs, I think it also ties into the fact that we're no longer living anymore because we've prioritized working and hustling and looking like we're having a perfect life than really living. I remember one of the reasons actually why I decided to move from France back to Kenya and now living in the village, and why I decided to stop applying to these corporate jobs, is because I had a severe burnout. As I said before, I grew up in an environment where I was always being pushed to be the best, and my entire life was always about go, go, go. I never really took a break. I remember we used to be told that when you're young, there's nothing like getting tired. So I was always just going and going, to a point where my brain actually does not recognize stress. I don't know what stress looks like because I have gone through very stressful situations. I'm talking about going through a school system where we woke up at 4 a.m. and went to sleep at like 11 p.m. and the whole day you're just studying and studying, doing exams. You're always being beaten. That was the kind of life I lived. This is one of the reasons why I like watching K-dramas, because when I see how they depict the school life in South Korea, I'm like, that is the life I went through. It's absolutely debilitating. It's depressing, but that is what we were told was the price we had to pay for a good future. And now I am in that future and it's not really looking that good, because you put in so much effort only to come into a work environment that is lackluster, that has a lot of mediocre people in leadership that require you to dumb yourself down. You're not even getting paid that well for all the work that you're putting in. And then it also looks like for you to leave, you have to constantly work. Like, work becomes life. You don't have life anymore, and work becomes a huge part of your life because you're constantly working, that anything else that you need to do, you have to ensure that it's not colliding with work. And I've just found that to be extremely suffocating. I really do not understand this idea of, if I want to take time for myself, I have to ask for permission. It really doesn't make sense. We come into this world with very limited time. We're expected to use all that time studying in school and then working the entire of our lives. And even when you want to just take a day off, you have to ask for permission. And you know, your manager can actually say, no, I'm not going to approve you to take a day off. How did this become normal? And especially now that we're living in a world that is supposedly advanced and more civilized, what is the point of all this civilization and technology advancements if you're still working 40 hours a week, even more, 50, 60, 70 hours a week. What is the point of all this civilization if we can't even live? We can't even take a moment to breathe. After going through my severe burnout, I really decided that I want to live a life where I'm the one who writes the rules, where I can go wherever, whenever I want. Is it easy to create such a life? For someone like me who grew up being told that the only way to be successful is working hard and getting a job, it's not easy to break out of that mindset, but I've been making steps to creating the life that I want. Is it easy? No. But is it doable? Absolutely. It is a reality that a lot of people see employment as the only way to be successful because it gives people status and identity, and I found out pretty quickly that I don't care about those things. I've been someone who has always never really cared that much about what other people said about me, especially people that I don't know. I did usually care about what the people in my family thought about me. That's why I did all the good things, got a first class degree, did a master's degree to make them happy. And then I realized, oh, it wasn't enough. I needed to do more, to push myself more. I was going through a severe burnout, but these people were looking at me like, oh, you're a failure because you don't have a corporate job. And I realized at that point, it is really pointless. So I've really worked hard to really not care about anyone's validation. And I've really come to realize that for me, the most important things in life are the life that I want to live. I really don't care about the status in society or my identity as, oh, she's working in this company, she is the chief what in this company. I really don't care about that because ultimately those titles could be taken away at any time. But what cannot be taken away from me is how I think about myself. The moment that I decided that I'm gonna do things how I want, I became a disappointment to my family. I'm now seen as the certified failure. If that is what it takes for me to live a healthy life, to have a stable mental health, then it's fine with me. I'd rather have the status of a failure, but I'm actually enjoying life, than have the status of working in a corporate job, earning a lot of money, married to some man, have children, and I'm living a miserable life. I have seen this kind of life in a lot of women, and they haven't lived even to their 50s. So no, I'm not going to force myself to go down that route because I know exactly where it leads. There's also a reality that a lot of these jobs, especially the corporate jobs that really pay you well, are really a trap. And I understand that this is like the dream for a lot of people, and that's why a lot of people don't understand how I was working in corporate Kenya and I also worked in corporate France, and I left all that. That is the dream for a lot of people. But that could be a massive trap. Money you could be getting is good, but you know what? You have to work for it. You have to pay back every penny. It means that your time is not yours. They literally own you. I don't think a lot of people understand how cutthroat the corporate world can be. There's a lot of this talk on social media about quiet quitting. It really doesn't work in reality, because if you implement the quiet quitting, you better do it from the moment you're getting into a company. Because if you are a hard worker, if you're known to be a hard worker in the company, and suddenly you're starting to do the bare minimum, you're going to put yourself in the list of people who are going to be retrenched. It sounds very nice on social media, but in reality, that is the quickest way for you to lose your job. It's a reality that if you're working in corporate, you just have to accept that your time isn't yours anymore. It belongs to your employer. If they call you at midnight, you need to be there. One of the reasons why I don't fit into the corporate arena, because it needs people who can fit into a box. I can never fit into a box. I've never fit into a box. I'm also a multi-passionate individual, and that's why a lot of people always tell me things like, oh, you were too much, you're bizarre, you're weird, all these things. And I used to think that it's a bad thing, but as I've come to learn more about being multi-passionate, I'm like, oh, that's actually a strength. The fact that I can look at one thing and I'm able to see the different worldviews connected to this one thing, that is an incredible strength. People who think like me are considered a threat because it means that you're constantly forcing people to see different perspectives when it comes to an issue. That is exactly why if you're someone who is always thinking about different perspectives, you're not welcome. You're not welcome because you make people feel uncomfortable. It's too much work to always be thinking about including other people. I don't think a lot of people realize that a lot of business is actually built on exclusivity. The more exclusive you are, the more profitable you are. Working in marketing has been something that has been incredibly eye-opening. It has been one of the reasons that actually influenced me to step away from activism, because I realized that all these problems we have in the world, a lot of people look at them and they're like, oh, the leaders are the problem. But no, it's actually not the leaders. Majority of the people believe in these things. It's just so sad to realize, but that's the reality. These bad leaders are there because majority of people want them to be there. Majority of people think like them. Ultimately, all the systems are being propelled by individuals. I think I've gone off tangent, but coming back to the last reason why I decided not to work in corporate anymore. This is linked to me being a multi-passionate individual. When I realized that I can make more money on my own than being employed, then the prospect of being employed didn't make sense to me anymore. Even if you're getting paid $3,000 per month, I can make that money on my own, even in a day if I want to. And this realization came when I started seeing my being multi-passionate and me seeing that as a strength. When I realized that I have a unique way at looking at the world, it meant that even when it comes to my work, I have a very unique way at looking at things. But I'm not doing this because it's easy. I'm doing this because I want to. Because I don't want to be somewhere in a cubicle listening to a mediocre manager tell me what to do when they don't even understand what the job is all about. And then they get all the money and I get peanuts from that. They get all the credit and they expect you to be grateful because after all, you're a young woman. You're given this opportunity to work. Oh my God, you should be grateful.